Welcome back, guys. How did I get in this room? Margot, we have a returning guest. And this is one of those deals where we knew the minute that we talked to him that we wanted him back for part 2. Introduce him.
All right, we have the Don Bennett, who has the largest inventory of collectible drum and guitar sets.
Gear. Stuff.
I'm trying to quote it, but they're using my camera right here. Don, you know I want to attribute. We'll put it in the caption.
Look up the man. He's fascinating.
He's amazing.
He has got some of the coolest gear on the planet. So if you guys saw the last episode, he had an incredible story of how he got to meet Ringo Starr and eventually work with Ringo.
His stories are wild. We were just, every time you get the opportunity to speak with Don is a privilege, because everything that comes out of his mouth, it's so casual for him, right? It's like, oh yes, and
it's
Ringo
nonchalant.
Starr. It's very
nonchalant,
the way, very casual, but it's wild. It blew our minds again.
Yeah. So based out of Seattle. He was a drummer, started out as a drummer. Then I believe this is the timeline. He kind of like started a music store, and then he got into collecting vintage drums. And the next thing he knows, very famous people that are looking for vintage drums start contacting him. And the next thing you know, boom, Don Bennett's drum vault is
basically
is
then
born.
He becomes like the medium between these drummers and artists, musicians that he has looked up to and envied, and he's gone to their shows, and then they're coming to him.
They call him on the phone.
Sell their,
they send him a text.
Their utensils, even their motorcycles, if you will.
I'm looking for my wine. Yes, he has a Harley.
He's got a Harley right now. I don't know if it's sold.
Belonging to Def Leppard frontman Joe Elliott.
I
love that. That's
and
fantastic.
we did allude to that. I thought it was funny that you guys teased me the whole time, but I got.
He sent you a picture of him and Joe Elliott.
Joe sent me a photo, and I said, "This is so great. I love those shades."
Who's that guy? Okay.
He was like, "Now I've got dirt on you."
Yeah, so we had. So
I love Def Leppard.
You're going to notice me and Don laughing a lot, taking a lot of pokes at Margot during the interview. So anyway, let's get to it, because I want you guys to see it, and hopefully you enjoyed this as much as we did. Don Bennett, check it out.
Ironically, so I'm talking to Joe Elliott. He's the singer, of course you know.
Of course we know, yeah.
Don, you know that I know.
She told me the story.
Of course you know.
I'm glad we're still friends. I should have known. That's how novice I am in this industry. Please show me the people. Please introduce me the people that I should know.
So he, ironically, his first 2 concerts were T-Rex and Faces, in that order, and mine were Faces and T-Rex in that order. And at the same age, was probably the same tours.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Okay, give us a little bit more background view, though. I want to see.
No. Wait. We need more of Don. The background's great, but we need Don.
No, but I wanted him to go on his screen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. We can
see
other things.
I'm kind of looking at this backwards as you're doing.
No, it's actually cool, man. We can see all of it. It's amazing.
Let's see. That's Buddy Rich at the top.
Oh my God.
Then
love.
Oh man,
I see Ernie. I see Quiet Riot. I see Quiet Riot.
Don, you're friends with each one of the folks on the wall, right? Just to explain.
So Don, I'm sorry. I'm a metalhead from and whether it's in all flavors of metal I've loved all my life since I was a little kid. And I loved Quiet Riot so much. And I had the chance a couple of years ago to interview Rudy Sarzo.
Okay.
And so I have a question for you. Do you have a favorite Quiet Riot song?
It would have to be "Come On, Feel the Noise."
Exactly. So it's a cover, right? It's a cover. So I asked Rudy. I said, that song came on, and it was weird because it came on the radio on the way for me driving to the interview, and I said it still just kind of like makes the hair on my arms stand. He goes, the funny thing is the label wanted us to do that, and we didn't want to do it. We didn't want to put it in the album. He said, so Frankie said, don't worry, I'm going to totally cheese this and they'll never use it. He goes, but of course, Frankie's incapable of playing a bad drum beat, and it became this smash hit.
Yeah, and it made their career.
Yep.
So that song, of course, and you could just ask Margot because she would know this. That song.
I don't know. I feel like
Shots fired.
That song is a cover by a band called Slade. They're the ones who had the original one. And that is also one of my all-time favorite bands. And actually, and also it was one of Joe Elliott's favorite bands. And that's how that conversation pursued.
So talk about working with Joe. What do you guys have cooking?
So with Joe, just recently I bought like a massive warehouse of gear from Def Leppard. There were drums, guitar gear, bass gear, sound reinforcement gear, and also clothes. Anyway, that all went really well, and that all just turned out great. And so somewhere along the line, Joe said, "Well, I've got this mixer board we used on like about 5 of our albums from my home studio. That we mixed 5 of our albums on it, and then I also have a couple of Harleys and this classic vintage car that I just don't have room for anymore." He was saying this car he has is 22 feet long, and he said, I literally cannot get it into the parking garage at my condo where he was going to keep it. So he wants to sell it. It's this beautiful, beautiful car. It's called a 1955 Retrolay. It's a one-of-a-kind custom car. Now, if I didn't know anything about guitars, which I didn't when I started trying to sell guitars for Aerosmith and for Def Leppard, I really don't know about cars. That's like a complete another world for me. But I know that the same kind of people who would be interested in a Def Leppard guitar would just give their right arm to have the lead singer in Def Leppard's Harley. And so that's what we're working on right now. A board, a Neve mixing board, and 2 Harleys, and then this Retrolay.
That's amazing. I can only imagine what went through that Neve.
He is also a huge Thin Lizzy fan. And make a long story short, he got asked to remaster, re-edit Thin Lizzy like greatest hits. And some of the stuff had to be like completely re-recorded. So for him, just imagine this. You're a massive fan of this band, and you get to go and actually recreate the parts so you're actually playing the parts for this re-release. And of course, things have got to be copied perfectly.
Sure.
And so it was just like, for him, this was like a geek project galore. And so that is one of the other albums that was done with that Neve board.
Funny story, not a funny story, but I guess it's historical. I remember being whenever it was in the 80s, taking my girlfriend that was a huge Def Leppard fan, and we saw the Pyromania tour.
Oh,
and
nice.
And it was literally one of those situations where the crowd was almost yelling louder than the music that was being played. Like I've never heard so many women screaming at the same time. That's what Def Leppard was at the zenith.
Yes.
You know.
And you know, they were at one point, they were the biggest rock band in the world. And they were the best-selling rock band. I can't remember which album that was or where exactly it was, but yeah, that was actually the goal they set out with. And you know, that band, Def Leppard, is really, I mean, it's a band. It's definitely a band, but it's Joe Elliott's vision from the beginning. I mean, he's been kind of the force behind
The architect.
Yes.
Blown away by all of this. As I know, and one of my favorite quotes from our first interview, Don, was how you say that you wake up every morning with the reasonable thought that something incredible will happen. And it really has resonated with me, because something crazy will happen in my life. I'm like, oh my God, Don has the same thing times, exponentially times 3. When you sent me the picture of you and Joe, I was blown away again. Incredible things happen to you all the time.
You know, that is something that, yeah, I do sort of carry that around in my head, that it's completely within the realm of normal possibility that something really amazing will happen today. And it kind of almost every day it does. Sometimes I'll look at my, on your cell phone, it has like the list of the calls that you made today.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, look who I talked to today. It could, I don't want to name drop, but it could be any number. But
yeah.
And I don't really think about it, but then I start scrolling through, and there might be 7 or 8 calls from my various heroes that I had on any given day. Damn.
I had that same feeling though, when I was, we were
When I call you.
Yes. My hero is right here, Comey.
I know.
But no, I had that same thought the other day when we were talking about JD, and then I thought to myself, how am I saying, hey, Don and JD, you guys should chat? And I'm like, this is Don Bennett and JD, who plays drums for Aerosmith. How am I even scrolling through and thinking this is appropriate? I should just be organizing soccer drop-offs, but I think I'm better at one thing and not as good as the other. Okay, tell us about your recent conversation with another dear friend, Robert.
Now, I wouldn't say Robert is a dear friend. I mean, not that.
Well, you had a conversation which is much further than you gone there?
No, I was in New York City, and we were my wife and I were, this is years ago, and we were somewhere in Manhattan, and we walked into a store, and Robert Plant walked in, and he was just picking something up, and I turned around, and I was like, I wanted to scream in my head, but I was like, I didn't want to say the words, and I turned around to get my wife, because my wife had the camera. This is how long this was. There wasn't an iPhone. She had the camera, and I'm like,
Instamatic.
Robert Plant, come. And we turned around, and he'd gone, and that's as close as I got, and it's good, because I would have rambled some nonsensical gibberish.
Ramble on.
Very good, Margot.
So
1
good.
point for Margot.
There you go.
See, I'm making up for.
Anyway, so what's happening with Mr. Robert Plant?
Okay, so yeah, again, I never like to play it off like, oh yeah, my great pal Robert Plant. This is actually the first time I met him.
Of course.
But I went to go see him. He has been touring and recording with Alison Krauss for several years.
Sure.
And they do this really cool music. I mean, it is completely not Led Zeppelin. It's a completely different zone, and I got massive respect for him doing this music that he really loves to do, as opposed to just continuing to do Led Zeppelin, which I think he feels that it was awesome, it was great, he did it, but his life goes on. He just doesn't want to just keep doing that. Anyway, he's doing this great music. His drummer, who is a good friend of mine, Jay Bellerose, he invited me to come back after the show and say hi. And so we're back in this little house next to the venue, and we're just talking. We're doing what we do. We start talking about drums, etc. And Robert Plant just kind of comes up and is like, "So what's going on?" I'm like,
Lots in your head.
What do you say?
Right.
What do you say?
I don't know. How do we respond to that and play it cool?
So yeah, I said, "Hey, oh yeah, hey, great show," and then he started going on about he was agitated. He was bummed that he could just not get this audience on their feet. He was throwing everything he had at them, and it was just not getting off the ground. And so here's Robert Plant, who's been the singer in Led Zeppelin, probably the ultimate alpha dog in the whole rock world.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
The front man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been doing this his entire life. And here it's just like bugging him that he just couldn't get these guys off the ground. He said, we tried everything he had, and get a few people up, and then they sit back down. I mean, those are the same kind of conversations I have sometimes with, musicians I know. If you're like playing like at a wedding or something like that, and this crowd just won't get into it. They want to sit in the back and talk. And I'm having this conversation with Robert Plant.
But it's nice to that's a good reminder though, that the frontmen, these leads, they still want the energy. They're not so pompous that they're like, oh, I'm playing at a wine bar, a different venue. It's not a stadium necessarily, but they still feed off the energy from the crowd. And we've talked about this with some of our other guests, that live music is what keeps everyone engaged. It's what keeps, I think, like the music industry exciting and fun, because you can do Spotify for as long as you want. You can do Apple Music, all these things. But when you go to the concert and you connect, there's something about that vibe, that connection.
Absolutely. I've had the really great fortune to know a lot of really great drummers, and actually Kenny Aronoff for one.
Oh my God.
And it's relevant to this conversation in that, so Kenny has played with just
everyone,
artists, and he comes through Seattle with somebody pretty often. Most of them are artists that I probably would have never gone to see, and have all turned out to be like really amazing live. But I heard their records and seen videos and all that stuff my whole life, and then I go see them, and it's like, whoa, this is a whole thing that I never got. Like Bob Seger, amazing. I don't own any Bob Seger records. Never would have gone to see him if I wasn't going.
People forget how many hits Bob Seger had
coming out his ear. I mean,
that list is long.
Duty, and actually, for me, it was more baseball.
Yes.
Yes, I've done my duty for about 12 years.
Well, I want to tell you, man, I want to tell you something. Margot sent me the clip that you sent her, which is kind of like the
So cool.
the little Rolling Stones behind the scenes, kind of the Seattle show. And I looked at it very briefly on my phone and I'm like, oh yeah, I love the Stones too. She's like, no, look at it again. Don's in it.
Like,
And
what?
I was
Tell
like,
us about that.
holy
Tell us about
smokes.
that.
You know, that was so cool. It was the same thing. Somebody sent me this video, said, you need to see this. And so, I started looking at it and it's like, okay, yeah, cool. This is the Stones little recap or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it of their show, the whatever you call that, what was like 2 or 3 minutes long or something like that. And he said, but you really got to watch it. So I'm saying, okay, this is interesting. I said, oh yeah, there's a Space Needle. They're showing little things they saw around Seattle. And then boom, there I am talking to Steve Jordan. And it's like, whoa, I'm in the Rolling Stones Instagram clip, or what would you call one of those things?
It's like a little sizzle reel, or just a little behind the scenes promo video, whatever it is. You're in it.
I count on you guys.
You were literally in it, and we know you. So I love that you're
listen.
Look at your background.
Listen.
Look at the videos you're in. It's wild, and you're still so chill.
Listen.
My head would be too large for the screen.
I love Steve Jordan so much, it's ridiculous. I tell people, that guy you could give him 2 pencils and a Coke can and record it, and I would know it's Steve Jordan.
Steve Jordan is like a mega musical genius. He's got musical brain power just like coming out his ears.
Amen, brother.
I mean, he can be sitting back there with the Stones just going boom, bap, but he's doing it. I mean, anybody else would be going boom, bap, but when he does it, like a stadium is freaking out. It just, he just has this gift. It's part gift and just part tons and tons of work and being super laser focused and paying massively close attention with this gigantic brain of his. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch.
What I'm going to say right now, there needs to be a road trip. I think a roadie to Seattle, because I want to walk into the drum vault. I want to see this stuff.
That wall.
Look at all the stuff behind it.
It was hard for me to focus.
I would nerd out. I would lose my mind.
You did nerd out.
Because that's what I do.
Both of us were losing our minds. Yeah. We didn't even have questions from all in the initial interview. All we wanted to see were like the drum heads. It was wild. I mean, he had anything from Cheap Trick to I can't even remember. Hopefully you watch the interview and you'll see. Nobody has that but Donn, and it's just as casual. He's like, this is my office.
Yeah, he gets all the guys to sign the drum heads, obviously, and they send it to him, and he's got the ones on tour.
I had a how did I get in this room moment when JD was explaining how disappointed he was that the Peace Out tour wasn't happening and he was going to be playing drums for Aerosmith. So I said, you lean into your art, aka this piece behind me.
Beautiful piece, yeah.
And then also, since he does paint, the drum heads and everything, I said, you and Donn should reconnect. And I'm thinking, how did I get in this room where I'm on a text chain with Don Bennett, John Douglas?
It's your killer personality,
it's my killer.
which strikes again.
Here we are.
And again.
Just painted my own nails, but I do have a killer personality. So here we go.
Well, yeah. Maybe
I like that shout out. I love that compliment.
Maybe a nail salon is not in your future. Maybe running a nail salon is not in your future. Anyway,
each other more.
So Mr. Don Bennett, what a pleasure, man. It was so incredible to have him. And great story. One of the stories that I really enjoyed him sharing, because I'm such a fan of Steve Jordan, who's now the drummer for the Rolling Stones, took over after the late great Charlie Watts passed, and They just sound amazing. My friend Glenn Davis just saw them at the Houston performance, and he's already got tickets to see them somewhere else in the United States. And Donn sent us the video.
Oh my God, I love that.
We talked about it, and you sent me this video, and I'm like, oh. It is like a video you guys have seen if you follow the Stones or you're Stones fans. All throughout their U.S. tour, they've been posting these videos of like Houston, and it's like a trailer, right?
Just
It
trailer,
leads up
yes,
to the show.
yes.
Well, this was Seattle. And Margot sends it to me, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
But I send
Stones.
lots
and she's
of
like,
memes
no.
all throughout
She's
the
like,
day.
no, look at it again. So I go back and look at it, and as they're walking up, backstage, Keith, Mick, they're walking up to, Ronnie, they're walking up to, basically the curtain's going to open, and they're in Seattle, and they're the Rolling Stones. I'm like, is that Don Bennett?
It's Don. It's our buddy Don.
Yeah, because, he's buddies with Steve, and like, hey, why don't you walk up to this, all the way backstage? Man, I would have lost it. That's just so cool.
No, but he does, and we asked him, and I love this reference, how he always stays humble and plays it cool, and his wife is just, she's into the music scene, but she doesn't work in that scene, so he'll get excited too. He can fan out as well. How would you not, right? You're with the Rolling Stones, so he was pumped, and she's just like, hey, we're going to the concert. Who are your new friends you'd like to introduce me to?
Yeah.
It's just,
you may have heard of him.
You might have heard of them.
This is Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
All right, guys, give us a follow. Share this video, please. Of course, you can go to How Did I Get in This Room on Instagram. Give that a follow. Give it a share. We need all the help we can get. Next week, more cool stuff. Another great guest. I don't even know who that is, but please tune in. We'll see you. Peace. We're out of here.